You mentioned that the schools are like designed to be like promote equity and whatnot, but I think it's also designed to oppress people. And like one easy way to look at that is like what we've historically done to American Indian or indigenous populations, where like we were, quote, trying to civilize the savages. And there's a lot of research on this that has been done that has talked about like basically we took kids off the reservation and tried to make them white. And there's tons of research out there on that. If people are listening to this and are confused about it, I'll put some in the show notes. It's like, on one hand, we say, yeah, we want to be equitable and like we want to do these like great things and promote this like good things for society and people. But on the other hand, we're going to oppress you and make you do things our way.
Yeah, it's like you do it our way. And that's one of the things that I mentioned here at Illinois. People always talk about diversity. And heck, even when I was at Indiana, a lot of institutions are so quick to, diversity, recruitment. And I'm just like, yeah, you sing diversity, but it's all about how you want it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, how do you want it? And it's very controlled. So I agree with you. I mean, even looking at historically Black colleges and universities, I think Cheney University was the first one in 1837, roughly 200 years after Harvard. And when they were allowed to create these institutions, they didn't have the same curriculum as Harvard. Why? Because the folks who were in these schools were newly freed from enslavement, where they were not empowered to read or write or to do anything close to that deemed to be sort of education-like.
Mm-hmm.
Many of these schools started out, HBC started out as might as well say the equivalent to kindergarten, teaching people how to read and write, but also etiquette and how to assimilate into a predominantly all-white American society.
Right.
Education in this country is all within certain parameters. And when you bust outside of those parameters, it's trouble. It's incredible. Look at the curriculum at any university. You can look at our curriculum at Illinois. Many of my colleagues here agree. It's very rooted in Western art music, and everything else outside of that is not necessarily of importance. Like a class is probably deemed an elective unless you are majoring in a particular sort of music. So if you're majoring in jazz, more than likely you're going to take jazz classes. And jazz is a Black art form. But how many other people would actually take that course?
Right.
Or be told that they need to take that course? Not many. It's unreal. But we call ourselves music schools, schools of music, but only one music is elevated.
Yes, which is an extremely important point that I don't think most people realize. One of your comments about how HBCUs were teaching etiquette and whatnot in order to like assimilate, it's also not just like the ways that you behave and interact within predominantly white society, but it's also just like the natural ways of being, like the embodied things, that natural hair, how workplaces will put a ban on stuff like that. And it's just like those little things. It's like, wait, so you're saying my natural way of being is not allowed here? What does that say about what you think about me and how I am as a person or who I am?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, like my years in the military, for Black women, even now, there are certain hairstyles we cannot wear, like cornrows. They have to be a specific size and a specific this and that. But white women in the military, they will throw some cornrows in their hair easily. When I got into the military and basic training, we were told to wear underwear based off of our skin complexion. I joined in the military in 1999. Black women had to wear certain, at least this is what our drill sergeant told us. Black women had to wear specific underwear, a certain color. And then white women had to wear white underwear and bras.
Why?
I don't know.
No explanation, just this is what you're doing?
Yeah, no explanation. Because too, none of us were gonna push against it, because the majority of folks who enlist in the military are usually like 17, 18, 19 years old.
Right.
At the time I was 17, and I'd never forget that. So it's just how you are Like you say, your natural way of being is not acceptable for the status quo. When we look at colorism, skin complexion, skin tones, and that is a direct product of racism.
Yeah.
How people see themselves. And so even in the Black community, like my skin complexion would be acceptable because my skin complexion is considered to be light skinned. There was the brown bag paper test.
Right.
And they placed the brown bag next to your skin. And if you were that color or lighter, then you were considered to be beautiful and smart and you had social access and all these things. But if you were darker, then your access to various things were pretty limited. Everything is so related and interwoven. Racism is so endemic in American culture, it's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, another example, it's only in the last few years that the so-called skin tone band-aids and makeup actually are not just white now. Like, it includes other colors other than variations of shades of white.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it was the Rockettes.
Yeah.
They just now recently, within the last few years, have allowed women of color to have the same skin tone as their bodies with the stockings. And the argument was, we have to have uniformity. But it's like, okay, everybody's legs are the same, but then when you go up to their face, you have white women and you have women of color. It's crazy, the excuses.
Right.
To ask someone to not be themselves.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 43, which is titled The Shire as Metaphor for Systemic Racism with Joyce McCall. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredaleary.com.